His hand hit cold sheets. Wade Calloway jolted awake at 5:47 a.m., fingers searching for the red flannel shirt he always kept folded at the foot of the mattress. It wasn't there. His palms swept across bare cotton, worn thin, gone stiff, empty. He sat up slowly. Apartment 4B on Decatur Street in Louisville, Kentucky looked the way it always did. Construction blueprints rolled against the baseboard, a crayon drawing of a purple house taped crookedly to the dresser mirror, one worn work boot standing alone by the door like it was still waiting for its partner. The other boot had a hole in the sole he kept meaning to fix. He never found the time. Wade was 34 years old. Calloused hands. Tired eyes that had learned to carry more weight than they let on. He pulled double shifts at Hargrove and Sons Construction through the week and tutored neighborhood kids in math on weekends. Every single hour of it for one reason. Penny. His 7-year-old daughter sleeping down the hall. Her mother had walked out 3 years ago without a note, without a warning, without so much as a goodbye. That silence had moved into his chest like a tenant that never paid rent and never left. What would you do if you woke up and discovered your whole life had already been rearranged, while you were asleep? If you love emotional, powerful stories, don't forget to like and subscribe right now. Drop your country in the comments. Let's see how global this amazing community really is. He stood, rolled his neck, and stepped into the narrow hallway. Every muscle in his body locked. There was a woman standing in his kitchen. And she was wearing his shirt. She didn't look up right away. The woman stood at Wade's kitchen counter, barefoot on the cold tile, stirring a mug of coffee with the unbothered calm of someone who had every right to be there. She was heavy-set, mid-40s, with auburn hair that fell past her shoulders in loose waves. She wore his red flannel shirt like a dress, unhurried, unashamed, completely at home in a kitchen that was not hers and had never been hers. Wade's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She turned, set the mug down with a quiet click, and looked straight at him, no blinking, no apology, not a shadow of guilt anywhere behind those storm-gray eyes. That was when the recognition moved through him like cold water. Vivienne Hargrove, CEO of Hargrove and Sons Construction. The woman whose name was on his paycheck, his health insurance card, and the termination notice folded inside his jacket pocket. The one he had not breathed a single word about to anyone, not even Penny. He had seen her twice in his life. Once at a company-wide meeting he was required to attend. Once on the cover of a Louisville business magazine someone had left in the break room. But those storm-gray eyes were not something a person forgot. "You're awake," she said. "Good. We need to talk." Wade had not moved from the doorway. How did she know his address? Why was she standing in his kitchen at 6 in the morning? And why did she look like she had been there all night? She reached beneath the counter, and slid a manila folder across the surface toward him, slow and deliberate, like a verdict nobody had asked for yet. She told him how she knew him. 3 nights ago. Route 42. Rain coming down so hard it turned the road into a black mirror. Her car had gone off the side and dropped into the drainage ditch just outside the industrial park, tilted in the mud, windshield fogged over, rain hammering the roof. No airbag trigger. No major injuries. But she had sat in that tilted car for 40 minutes without calling a single person. Not because she was hurt. Because the man she had trusted most in her professional life had just shredded everything she thought was solid, and in that cold, dark, waterlogged quiet, she had stopped caring whether anyone came looking. It was Wade who found her. Driving home from a late shift, headlights catching the silver flash of her bumper in the ditch. He pulled over. Most people keep going. He did not. He knocked on her window. When she didn't move, he pulled the door open, draped his flannel shirt over her shoulders, called 911, and then sat down on the soaked ground beside the car. No questions. No pressure. No performance of concern. He just stayed, in the rain, in the cold, until the ambulance arrived. All he said to her was, "Are you cold?" She never told him her name. He never asked. But she memorized every line of his face. He had not thought about that night since. He told himself it was nothing, just a stranger who needed a hand, just the right thing to do. He understood now. She hadn't come here to thank him. She had come to warn him. Wade opened the folder. His name was at the top of the first page. Full name, employee number, department, job classification. He recognized the format. He had signed versions of this file before. But what was inside was nothing he had ever signed. Safety violations he had never committed. Incident reports from days he had been off the clock. Material inspection failures on equipment he had never touched. Each one documented. Each one dated. Each one signed in handwriting that looked like his, but wasn't, not quite, if you held it up close enough and looked for the places where the pen had hesitated. His hands went flat on the table. He built this over 2 months, Vivienne said, her voice precise and level. Every document time-stamped. Every signature forged. He was careful. But not careful enough. Wade stared at his own name sitting on top of a construction of lies. The termination notice folded in his jacket pocket was suddenly making a completely different kind of sense. He had read it yesterday morning and gone to work anyway, quietly, because Penny needed the health insurance to last through the end of the month. Preston, Wade said. Not a question. Vivienne didn't answer right away. She didn't need to. Preston Aldridge, VP of Operations. Wade's direct supervisor. The man who shook his hand at every site meeting, who called him by his first name, who asked about Penny by name and smiled like he meant it. He wasn't trying to fire you for something you did, Vivienne said. He was trying to fire you for something you heard. Wade's mind cracked backward. A supply closet during a site inspection 6 weeks ago. 2 voices on the other side of a thin wall. Numbers that hadn't made sense. A company name he hadn't recognized. He hadn't said anything to anybody. He had let it go. Wade. Her voice dropped lower. When the fraud investigation starts, and it will start, your name was next on his list to take the fall. Small footsteps in the hallway. Both of them turned at the same time. Penny stood in the doorway in her sock feet, sleep-tangled hair, wearing an oversized t-shirt that hung down past her knees. She had her father's serious dark eyes and the kind of slow, unhurried calm that some children are just born carrying. She looked at the strange woman standing in her kitchen wearing her daddy's red shirt, and she did not look afraid. She looked curious. Are you daddy's friend? She asked. Vivienne went very still. Something shifted behind those storm-gray eyes, not calculation, not discomfort. Something quieter. Something that moved like a crack running through a wall that had been standing for a very long time. I'm working on it, she said. Penny considered this for a full moment, the way only 7-year-olds can, with the full weight of a serious decision, then nodded, apparently satisfied with that answer, and asked if there was cereal. Wade exhaled and crossed to the cabinet. But he had seen it. He had caught the exact moment Vivienne watched Penny pad across the kitchen in her socks. The way the composed, unreadable expression she had worn since he first found her standing in his kitchen cracked open just slightly at the edges. Something raw and unguarded had crossed her face and disappeared again so fast that most people would have missed it entirely. He couldn't name what it was yet. But he realized, with a quiet jolt that settled somewhere in the center of his chest, that this woman, this powerful, untouchable woman who controlled his livelihood and had just walked into his home with a folder full of evidence that could destroy a vice president, looked, underneath all of it, profoundly lonely. And that was more unsettling than anything else she had shown him so far. Vivienne laid it out with no cushion and no apology. Preston Aldridge had been running a parallel operation for 14 months. A $4.2 million consulting fee deposited in a Cayman Islands account, not for work performed, but for contracts leaked to a competing firm called Vantage Build Group. Confidential bids. Project timelines. Supplier agreements that had taken Hargrove and Sons years to negotiate. Preston had handed all of it over, piece by piece, in exchange for a wire transfer that never touched a single U.S. bank. The result, a $200 million regional development deal, had nearly collapsed. 50 working families across Louisville were weeks away from losing steady income because of one man's decision to sell what was never his to sell. And when the investigation threads started pulling loose, Preston had done what calculating men do. He had gone looking for someone to carry the weight. Not a peer. Not someone with a lawyer on retainer or savings to survive a legal fight. He had gone looking for the most vulnerable name on the payroll roster. Single father. No financial cushion. Recently terminated. Easily discredited. Wade Calloway. Wade's jaw tightened. His hands went flat on the table. He watched me every day, he said slowly. Shook my hand. Asked about Penny by name. Vivienne held his gaze and didn't look away. Yes. The kitchen went quiet. The coffee between them had gone completely cold. There's one more thing, Vivienne said, and the change in her voice made the base of Wade's stomach drop clean through the floor. Preston knows I've been auditing his files. He knows I found this. She paused just long enough for the weight to land. He made a call last night. I don't know to whom. But Wade, he knows where you live. Wade pushed back from the table and walked to the window. Below on Decatur Street, Louisville was already moving. A man walking a brown dog past the bus stop. 2 kids on bikes cutting across the corner lot. A yellow school bus rolling slow down the block, brake lights flashing at every stop. An ordinary Friday morning that had no idea what was happening 4 floors up in apartment 4B. His mind went straight to Penny. It always did. He ran the numbers the way he always ran them, quietly, without drama, because drama was a luxury he had never been able to afford. No savings to speak of. No family nearby to take Penny if things turned. No union rep, no lawyer, no one in his corner who carried the kind of weight that could push back against the VP with 14 months of cover and a legal team already on speed dial. And on the other side of that math, a truth that could bring down the most protected man in his professional world. A conversation overheard in a supply closet 6 weeks ago. 2 voices, a company name he hadn't recognized, numbers that hadn't added up. He had let it go because he hadn't understood it. He understood it now. He thought about Route 42. About sitting in the rain beside a woman who had stopped trying to be found, asking her nothing except whether she was cold. He had not done that because it was smart. He had done it because it was right. He turned back from the window. What do you need from me? Vivienne blinked, just once, like she had braced for resistance, and didn't know what to do with the absence of it. Your testimony, she said. Every word you heard in that supply closet. Documented and recorded before he moves on the last remaining evidence. Wade nodded once. Steady. And if I do this, he said quietly, what happens to my daughter if it goes wrong? The phone buzzed before Vivienne could answer. It moved twice on the counter, face up, screen lighting the underside of her chin. She glanced at it. Her expression didn't shift by a single degree. But her hand, the one reaching for her coffee, stopped moving completely. Preston Aldridge. 6:14 a.m. She picked it up. Put it on speaker without a word to Wade. Pressed accept. Preston. Her voice came out smooth and even, the way a locked door sounds, no give, no warmth, nothing to read. A half-second pause on his end. Then his voice came through, cordial, easy, already knowing. Vivienne. Early morning for you. I heard you've been pulling personnel files this week. Anything I can help clarify? The kitchen was dead silent. Wade did not move. Penny's cereal bowl sat untouched at the edge of the table. I'll be in touch, Vivienne said. She ended the call. Set the phone down face first. 3 full seconds of silence passed. He's already moving, she said. How long do we have? Wade asked. She checked her watch. Hours. Maybe less. He's going to try to pull the digital records before our legal team can lock them. She looked up. I need you to make that call now, Wade. Once he gets ahead of this, the window closes. From down the hallway came Penny's voice, bright and completely unaware of everything, cutting straight through the tension like a beam of morning light. Daddy, I can't find my left shoe. Wade looked toward his daughter's voice. Then back at Vivienne. The full weight of everything, Penny, the folder, the forged file, the phone call that had just confirmed the clock was running, landed on him all at once. He made his decision in that moment. Not for himself. For every person Preston Aldridge had already buried. By 9:03 a.m., Vivienne's legal team had delivered everything to the state attorney's office: the forged personnel files, the digital audit trail tracing every falsified document back to Preston's company login, the offshore account records, the leaked contract correspondence, and Wade's recorded testimony, 22 minutes of it, clear and precise and unshakable. By 10:17 a.m., Preston Aldridge's access to every Hargrove and Sons system had been revoked. His keycard, his email, his parking spot in the executive garage. All of it cut in the time it takes to send a single authorization. By noon, 3 news vans were parked outside company headquarters on Broadway. Wade sat inside a conference room on the 14th floor, a room he had passed in the hallway twice in 4 years and never once entered. Dark wood table, 14 chairs, a view of the Ohio River through floor-to-ceiling glass. A room where decisions about his life had been made without him, by people who had never once learned his last name. He sat at that table now. Quietly. Without ceremony. Vivienne stood at the head of the room and addressed her board in a voice that did not waver once. Every worker Preston had targeted, 11 names in total, would have their personnel files corrected and sealed. Every termination reversed. Every dollar of back pay honored within 30 days. The company's legal exposure from Preston's scheme would be handled entirely at the executive level. None of it would land on the people who had already paid the most. She looked across the room at Wade once. Just once. Brief enough that most people in that room missed it entirely. He didn't miss it. Afterward, in the empty hallway outside the boardroom, a man in a gray suit walked up to Vivienne's assistant and handed her a sealed envelope. Preston's attorney. She opened it, read 3 lines, and brought it to Vivienne without a word. Vivienne read it. Folded it once. Slid it into her jacket pocket. Then she turned and looked at Wade. "It's over," she said. For him. 2 weeks later, the gold morning light came through the blinds of apartment 4B the same way it always had, slow and easy, painting long stripes across the floor, landing on the construction blueprints still rolled against the baseboard and the purple house drawing still taped to the dresser mirror. Some things had changed. Wade's personnel file was clean, every falsified record removed, every forged signature flagged and deleted from the system. His reinstatement letter had arrived by certified mail, signed by 3 members of the board, with a formal written apology and a check for 61 days of back pay paperclip to the front. He had held that check for a long time before setting it down. Most things had not changed. He still woke before 6. He still made Penny's breakfast before she asked for it. He still kept his one worn work boot by the door. Penny sat at the kitchen table doing homework, pencil moving in slow, careful loops across the page. She looked up without lifting her head, the way kids do when something is already on their mind. "Is the coffee lady coming back?" she asked. Wade set his mug down. Didn't answer right away. 3 knocks at the front door. He crossed the room and opened it. Vivienne stood in the hallway, no briefcase, no assistant, no armor of any kind. Just herself. Auburn hair loose, gray eyes steady, a small paper bag from the bakery 3 blocks down on Decatur Street held in both hands. "I owe Penny breakfast," she said simply. Wade stepped aside without a word. She walked in. She set the bag on the counter and reached into the tote over her shoulder. The red flannel shirt, washed, folded clean, pressed flat, came out and landed softly on the counter beside the bag. She didn't say anything about it. He didn't either. From the table, Penny looked up at the pastry bag, then at Vivienne, then back at her homework with the quiet satisfaction of a child whose question had just answered itself. Some debts don't get repaid. They get passed forward, one open door, one rainy night, one small act of grace at a time. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you haven't subscribed yet, Hit that button now and turn on your notifications. Every week we bring you real stories of courage, dignity, and the kind of human decency that changes lives. Drop a comment below and tell us what part of Wade's story hit you the hardest. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read tonight.